Seems all good to me.
It says starting, is what I'm seeing. Okay.
All right, second time's a charm. Here we go, guys. We're live. We're live. We're going. Hey, Kev, what's going on?
Yeah.
How you doing, man? Did you get your bulb in?
Did I get my what?
Did you get your bulb in?
Oh yeah, I got my bulb. Yeah, definitely.
Kev, if you haven't noticed, is of the darker skin complexion, and his light bulb went out, so he was nothing but an unlockable character on screen a minute ago. So we had to get that together. Thankfully, we have light. We're back. We're live. This is really happening. It only took us 18 minutes to figure it out, and it was really dumb. What I messed up was something really simple. So we're not going to talk about it right now. Maybe later, or maybe you guys can ask me in the comments. What did you do? But I got it worked out. Thank God. So, all right. We're live. We're going. We have a pretty cool conversation coming up tonight. I'm going to go over a couple things that happened during the week, but really excited to have Max and John on the stream tonight. We're going to be talking about concept art, character development, character animation, how all that kind of goes through the game development pipeline, how we get from A to B, all of that thing and more. But first, let's talk about some current events. Like, why was Tuesday canceled? Kev, what did you do?
So, Tuesday, I think it was probably around like 2 a.m. We lost power. If you didn't know, I'm in Texas, and we are going through a crisis right now. Cold weather in Texas don't really mix. So we've been dealing with that for the majority of the week, but we finally got power back today.
So you've been living in the cold.
Yeah, it's been really cold. It hasn't gotten above 30 and like pretty much all week. Lots of snow and ice, people busting their asses, cars sliding and being abandoned. Well,
if it makes you feel any better, we got warnings.
Yeah.
We didn't have to we didn't have to live through the chaos that you guys have lived through, but we did have some warnings.
Went through all that, now we're just trying to survive still. There's still a lot of people without power.
Oh, there's okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's still a lot of people just in the cold, all that stuff. I know there's a lot of charitable organizations that are trying to help out. So maybe
for sure put those in the chat, man, for sure.
Link those in the chat or something like that. But
absolutely,
that's what I was dealing with. And also
and that's also what that's
in Texas, so.
That's what our guests were dealing with too, so we'll invite them in a minute here. But just a quick 411 on that. Obviously the whole country is kind of dealing with this weather pattern thing. Like I said, we got warnings here, but it hit mostly in Charlotte, so we didn't have to deal with too much of it. Some cool stuff that's been going on. I talked about them briefly on Tuesday, but since we're here all together, I just wanted to bring it up. Meg the Stallion had a stream with Rooster Teeth, with Fiona from Rooster Teeth playing MK3, I think, Mortal Kombat 3, and that was pretty dope. We've all known, like, Meg the Stallion is a self-proclaimed gamer and nerd, so it wasn't surprising. But what was really cool about it was the fact that they amplified a black female pro gamer. So they had an actual pro fighting game, how do you string that? I don't know. A pro fighting gamer, a pro gamer that does fighting. Anyway, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. An esport athlete that focuses on fighting games. They brought her on and she whooped up on Meg, which was pretty dope and fun to watch. She mostly did friendships though, which was hilarious to me.
Nice.
So that was a really cool stream, just kind of like amplifying not just female voices, but also black female voices, and also like someone famous that has a platform like Meg the Stallion, kind of like opening the doors up for that. Super dope. I'm really excited to see more of that. If you haven't seen it, Stuff of Legends is hilarious. It's a D&D kind of education platform where they play D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, and they don't animate it, they act it out with puppets. So you have the characters and they're doing all the thing, and then they create like a scene with the puppets. It's like the Muppets with D&D. It's hilarious. It's like super grown up, obviously. There's a lot of like innuendos and things going on in there, but it's I really encourage y'all to go watch it. It's pretty funny.
Check that out.
No, absolutely. Borderlands movie is starting to get a lot of traction with all the castings. So Kate Blanchett's going to be Lilith. Kevin Hart is going to be Roland. And then recently, Jack Black is going to take on Claptrap, which is pretty cool. I love Jack Black. I think he's very, very.
They need to cast The Rock as Brick.
Well, everybody's saying that because those three together are just gold.
They have to. Like, I don't think it's like, I think it might be in one of their contracts that they have.
Oh, they have to work together. Yeah,
they have to.
No,
he just fits Brick. Like
I could see that. No, I could totally see him as Brick. Yeah, I could totally see him as Brick. Brick in the later games when he's kind of like got more character development as opposed to the first one where he was just kind of like smash kind of.
Yeah, I mean, that's his personality.
Yeah, you got it. Not highlight. Overwatch said they're not going to release Sojourn until Overwatch 2, which has some of the community kind of upset. And I've talked about this before, as diverse a cast as they have created in Overwatch, they still have missed the mark on a few things. One, there are literally no black women in that. I mean, if you can consider Farah and Anna, sort of, because they're Egyptian, but that's African. They're not black. So it's just this weird racial cultural thing that's kind of being pushed back on things. And Sojourn is a huge character, and the fact that they're waiting till Overwatch 2 has a lot of people kind of up in arms about that. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. So two new things that I haven't talked about. I'm really actually gotten super excited about this new game called Coral Island, which is, if you've played Stardew Valley, it's like a farming living game. It's not pixel art. It's I don't know what kind of art you would call it. I'm actually excited to ask Max and John. They might actually be able to answer that question. So, but it's a cool farming living life type game. But the reason why I'm so excited about it is the amount of diversity and equity they are considering in development is out of this world. I think it's a company out of Southeast Asia. I can't remember the name of the country it's in, but it's this really long name that starts with an M. And if you look at the team, they look Southeast Asian. They have consultants, everything like that. But they recently hit a stretch goal where they added 4 new dateable characters, and I was just like blown away by what they did. They created a female character that's a divorced mother that you can date. So that's just, I've never seen that before, right? and she's got stretch marks from pregnancy, like on her belly. And like it was immediate. I was like, oh my God, those are stretch marks. And they're there. And it's just impressive that they would even consider something that so many women have. Like the Twitter was blowing up about like, oh my God, I've never had a character that has the things that, you know, so very, very cool. And finally, Outriders finally dropped the time zones that they're going to actually be releasing the demo in. So we're going to be live on Thursday at 12 EST noon. 12 noon EST. I'm going to be live creating my first character in Outriders and playing. So if you're interested, join me. I'll be there next week, Thursday. And I'll be playing all day Thursday and then all day Friday as well. I took PTO so I could actually do that. I'm all in. That is it for news. If there's anybody in chat, by all means, like say something, say hi. I'm really excited that you're here. I just want to know how your day is going. Did you get hit by this weather? Are you living life in the Caribbean? Like, what's going on in your life? Let me know. I'm actually not 100% sure I'm going to get the Facebook chat. I'm gonna have to pull up Facebook and see if that's running, but I do really appreciate you're here. I will definitely look back and make sure that I answer any questions and comments. Maybe when I have conversations going, I'll have a chance to kind of bump over there, but really, really glad that you all are here. Stay conscious, help me out. All right, let us say hello to our guests.
Esteemed guests.
Hello! What's going on, Max? Hey, John. Why don't you introduce yourself, Max?
Sure, yeah. Hi, guys. I'm Max Davenport. I am the lead concept artist at Gearbox Software right now. Yeah, just been, making games for about 9 years now, and feeling really old about it, so...
Are you feeling self-conscious? We all get older, sir. We all get older.
You're old.
Well, John is probably going to look as young as he looks right now for the rest of his entire life. So he's just probably going to get like the gray fox effect,
It's going to taper
sexy
off
beast,
around, like the crux.
Yeah, sexy beast over here. John, tell us, who are you? What are you up to?
Hey, I'm John Nguyen. I am currently senior animator at Airship Syndicate, and yeah. Been animating in the industry for close to about 8.5 to 9 years now.
Yeah, we got a crew of veterans here. We got people on decades worth of game development. This is super dope. And I don't think a lot of you realize, hey, what's up, KG? Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. I don't think y'all know these guys have done some pretty cool work that you've probably played at some point. So we're not just talking about fresh face newbies, nothing under their belt. These guys have actually produced some pretty crazy work, which I'm going to show shortly. But yeah, like Max or both of you, like just as a conversation starter, like tell us how you kind of like got into. Like when it comes to like animation, you can go a lot of different ways. When it comes to concept art or illustration or whatever, you tell me what you call yourself, but those two facets can go a lot of different ways in a lot of different industries. I'm really curious how you, maybe a little bit about how you got started and then how you focused it into more game centered.
Right on. John, you wanna go first?
Go for it, man.
All right, cool.
So gracious, these two.
Yeah. Now, you always gotta double check. Yeah, no, I mean, personally, like for me, I've been drawing and into, pop culture and games and stuff my whole life. I think I started drawing when I was like 3 or 4, as soon as I could hold a pencil and articulate that shit. So, it's just kind of always been in my blood there. When it comes to actually getting into game development, I knew I wanted to go to art school. I didn't want to, I didn't want to go for anything like I wasn't going to be an engineer or I wasn't going to be a college mathlete. Like that's not where my strengths lie. So art felt good, and it wasn't until I got to art school that I recognized that people can make stuff for games and movies and all this stuff. I was originally going to go for product design. I wanted to design cars, and now it's like, oh, I can design everything. I don't have to worry about any of this working. Like, nobody's lives are going to be at risk. It just has to be cool and they look fun. So, yeah, I mean, just kind of took off from there. You know, went to school, had a cool group of friends who are now all doing really awesome stuff. Got buddies who worked in movies, and you know, a friend of mine just shipped Last of Us 2. It's pretty damn cool. So it's like it's cool seeing, you know, your friends having those big successes. So. Yeah, you know, just kind of always been in it, just trying to kick butt in cars, and now it's like, oh, I can design.
Oh.
I like it.
How about you, John?
Yeah, so my start, yeah, it's pretty close to Max. You know, actually, you know, my folks, when they first moved over here to the States, you know, your typical kind of like, they wanted me to be a doctor, lawyer, that kind of stuff, but just never really got into it. I just remember my grandpa was like, he's an artist, like traditional artist. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. But you know, so I doodled and draw a lot when I was younger. But when I got older, it was honestly luck. I chop it up to luck. You know, it's yes, hard work, but if the luck isn't there, you just, you know, sometimes you just can't get it. And honestly, when I went to the Art Institute of Atlanta, and I wanted to go into game design first, like, be a designer, right? And then I think it was on the day of where I was supposed to sign papers, there was a little brochure that says Media Arts and Animation. And I was like, animation sounds pretty fun. Grabbed the brochure. I skimmed right through it. I'm like, dope. I want to switch my major. So honestly, I just dived head in first, because I animated 2D a little bit in high school. Yeah. Thought it was fun, but I didn't think I would actually make a career out of it. Until I got into college. And
were your parents supportive?
At first, no, not at all. Especially when I told them web design was my thing, and I'm like, no, game design, more viable. I'm like, cool. And then I'm like, okay, what about animation? Animation is both film. I can go film, commercials, I can do games. I just knew that it was broad enough that I can just apply that to, you know, just kind of covering my ass, honestly, just in case I didn't end up with a job that I signed up for. But yeah, my parents over time, they definitely did support me, but they were not too happy at the beginning of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was a knee-jerk reaction. But yeah, since then, yeah, just in the industry, and honestly lucked out and just been thankful for it ever since.
Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely back you up on that. The parental front, it's kind of uncharted territory. You know, it's a new industry. My parents would have much rather me. It's like, oh, you should have stuck with your original plan. I'm just like, no, I'm gonna take a chance on this and see how it works out. And we're all glad we trusted our guts, because I mean, I never would have met you guys without taking this life course. Like, so thankful for that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Wait,
it's interesting to me that
go ahead, Kev.
All of us have that common strain of like, okay, we wanted to do something kind of out of the norm, you know, post high school, right? Just like you got to figure out what you got to do, and you got to do it quick. That was always like the mantra. It's just like, yeah, you got to go to college, get a good job, and then, you know, start a family, and that's it. And yeah, just hearing like it's still different stories, but that same common thread of like, okay, at first the parents were just like, oh, this is not the norm. Like, this is not what I had in my head of what you were gonna do when you know, you're growing up and everything. But then, you know, you make it happen. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, just something about just following that little voice inside you, right? That little gut feeling.
Yeah.
Like, you feel passionate and you feel good about this. Like, you maybe should pursue it, right? Instead of just, you know, being afraid and kind of taking the safe route.
Yeah.
It's the common thread.
Always glad, you know, took that chance, went on the limb there, and yeah. make the jump metaphorically.
Metaphorically. No, so like what? So how did you get your first? So you go to college, right? You're in college. You're focusing down this path. When did you make the? Obviously, you graduate and you make a leap, but like, was there a place in college where you were like, okay, this is the route I'm going to go, and this is how I'm going to start applying to jobs? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can answer that. I think really early on, it was instilled in us to reinforce our connections kind of within the games industry, the social sphere. And a lot of times when you're a student, that would kind of break down into, at least at the time, it was joining forums and joining art communities and participating, not only posting art and kind of doing that stuff, but like there's all sorts of challenges and kind of online, even just like group networking kind of stuff. I would honestly say that without that encouragement, not only would my view of what my capabilities would have been smaller, but I would not have had the kind of just sheer potential when I graduated. School is only going to get you so far.
Okay.
It is a baseline, and it is a good kind of establishing set of tools. But I mean, I can say any artist or designer who's left school, like you get out there, you have your portfolio, immediately put
Torn
it in
apart.
trash. Yeah, just redo everything. It's like cool. Yeah, you want to get rid of those student-based projects. Now you want to have some real meat and potatoes on your plate.
I mean, KP talked about that actually in the video that I created like eons ago. He said one of his primary goals was get everything in his portfolio from college out and anything new in. Is that kind of the vibe you were getting to, John?
Oh yeah, definitely. For me, yeah, I was fortunate enough to land a internship while wrapping up my last year, 3/4 of a year of my bachelor's.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely. As soon as I started my internship and started learning from industry professionals, it's like everything that I made 2.5, 3 years prior, worthless. Like it's actually like Max said, very bare bones, very like elementary, very intro level, because anything you're gonna put forth that that resembles what you can do, your skill sets, is gonna be your extra time, not necessarily the time that you're in school.
Okay.
And,
So is there like I don't want to spend too much time on like the past because I'm actually curious about the present, but is there like no way? I'm trying to think about young people getting into the field and like finding their way and stuff like that. Are there no avenues other than having a strong portfolio when it comes to getting a job? I'm not talking about getting into school because that's different. I'm talking about like actually like landing a position. Like for me, I graduated with a photographer degree and I went to New York, and I didn't start working as a photographer. I was working as like a grip, or a gaffer. So I was working behind the scenes doing a lot of lighting tech, building sets and things like that. But I was on sets learning from these photographers, gaining this experience. Is there like an avenue for people in the game development that you can kind of take in that regard? Because I don't see it.
Yeah, sometimes that can be like boiled down into internships.
Okay.
And it gets a little like muddled sometimes. I feel like some places do it better than others. But I mean, you can either go. I would say if you are still kind of trying to build those core skills and you don't think it's like, hey, this isn't ready yet, but I still want to be involved in this. I mean, yeah, internships, QA, quality assurance is a great like starting point.
Yeah.
For some of that, and I feel like it's pretty popular. It's full of a lot of people who are usually pretty driven to be included in that space, but then like don't necessarily have. Yeah, it's like, oh, I haven't been able to like pursue that like bachelor's or master's degree in computer science, or I haven't like had the money to go to this art school. And luckily nowadays, I would say, at least for art, you don't necessarily need to go to college to be a game artist. I would say that portfolio, as we were talking about earlier, is the driving factor. I've had art directors that were college dropouts. I've had, I've worked for a ton of people that never made it past a couple classes or other things, and it really, all that matters is that you have
Make that work.
Yeah. It's all about effort, and yeah, I always feel like it's what you can do, it's who you can know, or who you know, and then how you treat people. That's kind of like the biggest like 3 pillars of being successful in this industry.
Well, at the Equitable Gamer, we're striving to create that community. So no, like seriously, I say that jokingly, but at least this 2 second points, I can't make somebody a good artist, right? But I can provide them with strong network, and I can provide my network with good, conscious people, right? That's a big part of this too, is just kind of, just so you know, like I've been reached out to from a couple of my friends that are interested in starting like esports organizations. One of my friends talked about starting, they're thinking about starting an esports organization in the Virgin Islands, which is super exciting for me, right? And I'm like, what can I do to thread the needle into larger organizations? Like I know Morehouse has an esports league that's kind of, they're trying to build out. And I'm thinking, okay, predominantly Black community, HBCU, boop. Like how is that? That's just like that's a one-to-one to me, right? So I'm trying to think about how to leverage these connections I have and things along those lines. In the same regard that you're talking about, like it's like this with everybody and everywhere. It's who you know, the network you have, and are you a good person, right? Or do you fit the culture to some degree? Like there's complications around that, because I'm being very careful about how I'm saying like culture, because it's not like this whole idea of like I want to surround myself with people I want to go out for a beer with. We had this conversation before, isn't super conducive to making a good game, because there's no discourse, there's no people pushing each other and challenging each other to think differently, right? So when I say culture, I just mean culture of good, culture of equity, culture of diversity, you know, whatever that culture looks like. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. John, I wasn't sure if you had any thoughts on kind of like ways in to the industry other than like, I don't know. I mean, Max talked about portfolio. I'm sure you agree with him. I was just wondering if you had many thoughts.
Yeah, no, those are definitely agree with the 3 pillars there. I think recently, I mean, social media outlets, right? Things like forums, and at least within animation, like our animation community on Twitter is actually, you know, one of the more like very interactive ones, right? There's lots and lots of animators out there who are more than willing to review work, provide feedback. And I've literally seen mutuals who've gone from college kind of putting up their work, and then you just see over time, like a year or so, it just gets better and better. They have the visibility, and then now they're working on Santa Monica, right? So it's and that's also tangentially like connecting you with people, so who you know, and also how do you interact with them, like, and yeah, that goes a long way. So
I wonder if the Gen Z generation, I wonder if Gen Z kind of has a leg up on that, considering they have such a knack for social media space and creating those connections. I always kind of wonder that from like a longevity standpoint.
Yeah, like I definitely think they have a leg up, because, you know, when we're going through college and stuff like that, you know, there wasn't a ton of resources out there for, you know, what we're doing now. But especially these days, you know, there are a lot more people that have done it, and there's a lot more information out there, and Gen Z is just really open about everything. And so, you know, and they understand, like, they grew up with social media and everything, you know, they're creating these trends. Like I definitely, like, if you don't have a leg up as a Gen Zer, then you're doing something wrong. Like you have to tap into your resources. And yeah, I think that, yeah, especially these days, it's I mean, there's still a ton of competition, especially like when you look at like people that are exiting college right now, or even didn't even go, they just worked on their portfolio, and I'm looking at their work and I'm like, holy shit. Like, what? I wish I could have like been this good when I was your age. But you know, I'm happy for him, but because like I really want to see like this industry grow in more ways than one. But yeah, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely excited about a platform like this, in especially like with the fact that I have. I mean, this is crazy. Like, and I have to tell you how much I appreciate this, because like, you know, I don't have a ton of followers yet or anything like that. I'm just kind of growing the space, but like I have like, you guys have to understand, like I have 3 veteran game developers that work at like serious, like big freaking game development companies. Like I'm not talking about like your third party, like I'm just throwing something together kind of like glow up. I'm like, these people have knowledge about working for big game companies. And I'm not saying like that's the route you should go. Like you shouldn't go like for these big game companies, but like they have knowledge that they're dropping here on like what their journeys were and how you can kind of get. So this is pretty cool. So, you know, take that how you know, like I know I'm like totally like giving you guys ego trips and, you know, getting you big heads and everything like that, but it's cool. Like, you guys, do you even know what you've done? Like, are you guys recognize what you've done? Is that something you appreciate?
You gotta keep trying to make cool games.
It's funny, man. I feel like a lot of people, like you reach different points in your life, and it's like at certain points you're too distracted with what's ahead of you to like realize that you are like celebrating the things that you used to look forward to. So you get these kind of, I mean, like, yeah, whatever's important in the moment, you gotta take a minute and like respect the journey, kind of see like like just remember your successes, remember your failures. Because I feel like we've all kind of had our ups and downs in this industry as well. Kind of seeing things that really took off, things that fell flat, and the lessons learned from all that stuff as well. It's definitely, you know, at this point been a ride. Took us to some cool places, all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I actually, I mean, even on that too, I want to kind of dip back a little bit, but if that's all right. Yeah, no, just kind of like on the like the networking sphere. As far as like tools and kind of availability of resources, I think just in general, the net is wider for everything now. So it's like the accessibility of all these kinds of things, as far as like educational resources or communities, or even just like the ease of outreach when it comes to streaming services or like Twitter networks, and like the ability that people can create and share nowadays. Like I think going to school for me, it was like I could count the resources on like one hand of like the available like non like brick and mortar places that I could go for news and kind of like questions and FAQ and all that kind of stuff. And now it's just like, all right, cool, I'm gonna toss this opinion into the breeze, and I'm gonna get, you know, dozens and dozens of things back immediately, just because of like who's kind of paying attention. So it's cool. It definitely, like, you like people starting off in this sphere definitely have the challenge of fighting people who have either gone to more rigorous like kind of workshops or programs, or even vets who are kind of, you know, there's just more people in it now. So it's kind of a give and take there. It's just like, cool, there's more opportunities, but there's also more people fighting for jobs. So it's just interesting now.
I mean, the game development industry is pretty volatile as far as I can tell in looking at it. But John, were you going to say something? I didn't want to interrupt. If you have a thought.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Just agree, wider net, but current generations, we just need to sift through what's valuable to them, right? And what works for them.
Yeah. No, for sure. So cool. Like, awesome so far. I think we're up to, I got my first job. And then, so you guys are working, you're doing your thing. what I think I'm not gonna ask like what did you do, because you know that's a whatever question. I think, you know, whatever. Literally whatever. I think I'm actually more curious, like what made you decide to change company you work for, or what made you decide to move on to the next thing? What was that impetus, and then what were you looking for? I think, out of curiosity. So I mean, you can say where you worked before and where you're working now if you want, like however you want to transition that. But
yeah, I can go first this time. Yeah. So previous to this was
these
I
guys
was
are
at
so
High Res.
nice.
Yeah, High Res.
So
I was there for about 7.5 years. So in the
that's a good chunk.
Yeah, it's a good chunk. So in the grand scheme of things, right? You know, I still consider myself new, right? This is my second studio. Yes, I've been numerically in the industry for a long time, but like the catalyst for me to change was actually just, you know, self-improvement, self-growth. I by taking a step down, right? Because working at High Res for a while, great opportunities there. I grew and learned so much. I was a lead of, you know, the animation team and the technical animation team over there. Fantastic people, and we really made something special in terms of just the team's like community and like, just how like tight knit everyone was, and we really just had a safe space where like all the artists just felt really like, you know, just they were just vibing. They were just really vibing with each other, and it felt like the perfect like work situation, right?
Well, shit, why'd you leave?
Yeah, so, I mean,
I'm just fucking with you. I know you're going to the story.
Like at that point, it's like I didn't feel like I was growing anymore, right? So everyone thinks like, dude, I want to be lead, I want to be director, I want to hit all these like big things. And like, yeah, sure, I got there, and it was great solving problems and learning new things with all that. But I missed the art of it, and that's ultimately why I left. Because I was no longer animating. I was just spreadsheets, and I was just planning and producing. And so for me, you know, as cushy and nice that was, right, it just felt right for me to find a different place, a smaller studio, which Airship in the Syndicate right now, indie studio, smaller. And it was just like they were looking for someone to just come in, do art, grow as an artist, and just really drill that home. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want, right?
I just want to call out. I want to call out something really quick. Like what John's talking about is something I talk about a lot that people don't recognize. Some people don't want that the same, like the growth track of I want to be the lead of everything and I want to be in charge of this entire side of this company. I'm not saying that's not something you don't want in regards to like being in a position where you're helping other people grow, but you want to be able to continue in being in the process of it, not just leading a bunch of people through the process. And I just think it's really interesting. I'm like really glad that you talked about that, because everybody's always, a lot of people have this tendency of saying, oh, well, my objective is always to be the manager or the head or the senior or the lead or the people and the person in charge of everybody else doing anything, without taking into consideration the fact when you're in those positions, you're not often doing a lot of the work that you love doing, right? You're doing you're manager. You're doing a manager position now. It's a completely different skill set. It's a completely different focus, and it's not what everybody wants. And I'm glad we could amplify that with actual testimony here, because it's important to recognize. And again, that's not to say John isn't talking about being capable, or John isn't talking about not wanting to be able to be in a position where he can lead a team, but he wants to be, and he's hopefully found a home that's small enough where he has to continue kind of getting his hands in the mix of that. So I know that was long, so I might have thrown you off, John, but if you wanted to continue.
No.
Okay,
you're
good.
fine, Coop.
All right.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. You know, it's not like, oh, I'm no longer cut out for this or anything. It was just 3.5 years of doing that at such an early age for me. It was just kind of like, it felt like I was.
That's what happens when you're a badass.
I was just losing out on just room for me to grow, right? And I just wanted to learn from people more senior than me, and yeah, it was just a situation, as selfish as it may be. I was just like, I just gotta go and be uncomfortable again, right?
Yeah.
I was just getting too comfortable into the rhythm of stuff, and yeah, I just didn't feel like growing anymore. So it's like, you just gotta sometimes take another jump, right? Metaphorically.
Gotcha. It's funny you say that, because I literally put that in my, not the jump part, but I put that in every one of my cover letters, is I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Like, I want to be challenged. I want people that I can look up to and grow. And that doesn't mean that doesn't mean I'm not the most talented person in the room that does this thing. Right. But I can't know if I know everything, then like, if I'm the smartest, what was the saying I say? It's, if I'm the smartest person in anything, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I have nothing left to learn. Right? So I like everything you're saying is like, oh my God, it's right on page with the way I feel too. Not having an opportunity to see what someone that's been doing this for way longer than I have, or been able to kind of give me some knowledge, that I don't have right now, just seems like a terrible place for me to be.
Right. Yeah, and that's not to say that they Hi-Res was not like supportive or anything like that. They tried to create new opportunities for me to do more, right? And venture off into other avenues of game development outside of just animation and managing. So which that sustained me for another half year or so. But yeah, ultimately it came down to that. And since we talked about folks earlier, yeah, my folks were also not happy. They're leaving, because they're kind of old school.
Established.
Like, you had the salary,
you had your 401k.
The title. Why are you throwing this away and going to work for someone else I haven't heard of? I'm like, I'm working for me. Like, I'm not like,
I'm gonna help put them on the map.
Yeah.
And I can live by that.
Yeah, they were just concerned for their kid.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Your parents are immigrants, right?
Yes, I'm first gen.
That sounds like immigrant family to me, straight up.
Oh yeah. They want stable. Nice, they want stable.
Yeah, stable. Absolutely. That's so funny. Max, how about you, man? What got you to make the switch?
I mean, I feel
was it a girl? I'm just kidding.
No. I feel like at different stages in your career, you can have different goals. You can have different outlooks. I will say, so the first studio that I started at was a wonderful place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, called Shell Games, and run by Jesse Shell, who is a professor of game design at Carnegie Mellon. Super bright guy, very cool. Had this really awesome workspace. Like, he was involved in performing arts. And like the entire office was like bright colors, and there were like, it's like a penny farthing in the if you guys don't know, a penny farthing is like the old timey bicycle with like the big and small wheel. And he would like ride that around the office. He was kind of eccentric. I feel like
it sounds like it.
All CEOs are crazy people. But yeah, it was based on like educational, and I guess we called them transformational games. And it was more like, it actually is kind of in cue of like what the message is here, where it's like changing the people's perspective or experiences for the better. And for me, starting out, it was a really kind of like focused avenue. I was able to start out doing concepts that weren't, the fidelity and the execution didn't need to be as tight and intense. So it gave me more opportunities to fail early, which is great. But ultimately, it's like I knew I wanted to move into a faster paced, kind of bigger arena. Like I was like, I want to work on those big games.
Yeah.
So
the dream of every game developer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Game designer.
Yeah, I wanted to. I greedily, I wanted more out of that. So I said goodbye after a year, and then I went and worked at Hi-Res as well, where John and KP also used to work. That's how.
I don't know if you noticed the thread. That's how they all met.
That's how we all got connected.
Yeah.
And then from there, I think another change was kind of present. I was looking for something different. I wasn't kind of clicking with some of the projects that were going on. There were new opportunities, and I wasn't really ready to kind of stop and like kind of put down roots at that point. Like I had made a ton of great friends, but I was still kind of open and a little bit more. I don't want to say tied down, but I was a little bit more free with that experience.
Was it aesthetic for you? I mean, since you do, so what do you do? What's the word you use for the work you do?
I mean, I'm a concept artist.
So concept artist, not illustrator. That's not how you. I understand there's nuances here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like concept art is more like descriptive and informational based. Like I'm communicating visuals.
Okay.
So like stuff like pre-production, and then illustration is more like storytelling and like kind of fixed narrative and like.
See, we're dropping knowledge.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
No, this is good stuff. This is good.
Yeah.
This is important.
Like you would see just like a straightforward shot of a character, or kind of like it's like, oh, here's like a treasure chest. Like, cool. That could be concept art, and then you can have on the other side, illustration would be kind of
telling a story almost.
Telling a story, or having kind of a fixed. It gets there's.
As I said, I know it's muddy.
Yeah, it's definitely the Venn diagram where it's just like, oh,
that's yeah. I was gonna say, like, is illustration kind of like the high level, and then concept art would be underneath it?
Illustration is it's not used for I would say visual production. It's kind of like the end goal after you have like an established vision. I mean you could call a napkin sketch concept art.
Gotcha.
You could call anything kind of like
right, but not okay. So it's like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. Got it.
Kinda,
okay.
Yeah. In some regards, yeah. But anyway, yeah. Some of that stuff wasn't quite lining up, and two.
Was it aesthetic?
Some of it, I would say some of it was aesthetic, but some of it also it's like games are a business. Like so sometimes it's just people. Like at the time, and I'm not afraid to say it, it's like I was not really agreeing with some of the management decisions.
Okay.
So it's like cool. Like some projects are managed better than others. And at that time, you know, I feel like a lot of young artists and developers and designers are kind of willing to make sacrifices to get into this field because it is cool and unique, and it allows for some pretty different experiences as far like professionally. Just like, oh cool, like we have conventions like TwitchCon, and we have conventions like E3, or even oh my god, like GDC, the Game Developers Conference, and you get to go and spend these week-long stints with amazing people and influencers and educators and all this kind of stuff, and it's just a really cool sphere. So like being able to recognize in that space, like when it's not working for you, and not just kind of like taking the bad just because you feel like you have to make that sacrifice, kind of just like being able to protect yourself in that. And I'm not saying that I was like mistreated by any regard, but you know, like things I know I'm trying to cover my ass.
You guys were hurt in the production.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about like that type of conversation is like you're entitled, both of you, like all three of you, you're entitled to, you know, your joy. You're entitled to your happiness. So if something didn't feel and wasn't providing you with that, there's no question about why you've made a decision to move on. It doesn't have to be that you were specifically hurt, right? To say, I think I'm done and I'm ready to move on to the next thing, right? So don't, I mean, yeah. I mean,
if you're hurt, you move faster.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, for sure. I mean, it's like, yeah, no, I'm sitting here like talking about like equity and racism and all this other kind of stuff too. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, like in some cases it's like, no, there was like distinct reasons why I left. But like, you know, some of us have the opportunity to just say, you know what, it was great. I'm happy that I had the opportunity, but it's time for me to move on. So there's no demand of me to say, what was the reason? It had to be like terrible, you know? Yeah. I mean, literally like, hey, I had all, like you were saying, I had all these things I got to do and I was able to experience, but something just was missing and I decided to try something new.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's great that you had the opportunity.
Oh, dude, yeah. I've been very fortunate with just, as John was saying earlier, but just the luck and just the timing with some of these opportunities that have come through. Like, I definitely feel like it's been a rare run where, you know, a lot of people don't get to do the kind of things that I think we have. So fortunate, very fortunate.
Yeah, I kind of echo both of them with that. Yeah, like you said earlier, we all kind of worked at high res. That was my first job in the industry, and I learned a ton there. And yeah, it wasn't always super great. It wasn't always terrible. But yeah, it was an experience. And yeah, once I felt like I wasn't learning enough or growing enough, that's when, you know, I decided to make the jump. And went to Gearbox, and it was pretty much, it's been kind of the same for me, just with my personal growth as a designer. I'm just always like trying to push myself, and yeah, I've been extremely lucky with the opportunities that I've gotten just through who you know, what you know, all that stuff. And it just seems like the timing has always been on my side. So
yeah. I mean, what I can say, what I'll say to some of these points, because I think it's important to elevate this, is I don't know, honestly, I don't know Kev, John, and Max as much as I would say I'd like to, right? Like, I don't know a lot of depth in regard, like, we don't talk every day. It's not like that kind of relationship, right? But what I can say is the little time that I have had in spending time with them is like, they're good people, right? So like when they talk about yeah, I know, it's a little hard. when they talk about like luck and things like that, you know, I'm starting to learn about faith and all that kind of stuff. I would say like, y'all are just blessed, because to be a good person and to produce good work, it would be simple for someone to say, hey, I want them working with us, because not only are they producing really good work, right? They're also awesome people. And I feel like, given where they, and like, I love that you guys talked about, like, I was in a position where I wasn't getting what I needed and I wanted a challenge. Both of you kind of said the same thing, like in different ways, right? And like Kev is the same regard. I mean, we talked a little bit about some like racial issues and some things that were happening that were like microaggressions and things like that just were frustrating. Not like, oh, I was having a terrible time, but it just, I'm not feeling it, right?
Yeah.
To be in a position where other people recognize, you know what, these are good people, right? Let's give them a challenge. Like, let's take them in, give them a challenge, and watch them grow. Because like the most impactful thing an employer can ever do is say, I want you to challenge yourself and produce great work, right? And like, without any, like, if you fail, you're fired. Like, none of that shit, right? No. It's just like, go ahead, John. Were you gonna say something?
No, I was saying no. Yeah, that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it.
Yeah, so I really wanted to kind of set that up, because I think it was really important to recognize that it's not that they're just producing great work, because there's a lot of people that produce great work, right? They're also building connections and showing people that, hey, I'm actually kind of cool, you know, person. You know, I might fit in well into like your schema of, you know, what you're trying to accomplish, but no, I do bring my own experiences, knowledge and skills to the table. So I'm not going to just walk in and be like, tell me what to do, you know? Mm-hmm. So just so this is a quick shout out. Like, I just wanted to thank everyone that's been watching so far. Obviously, if you're liking the content, like, subscribe, follow. These are the kind of conversations I'm hoping will continue into the future. Yeah, down there, do it, make it happen. And then obviously, like, if you're hanging around in the chat, say something, say hi, ask them some questions. By all means, I mean, we're happy to answer them. Or check in how you're doing. Mm-hmm. We're all fly. If you didn't know, we canceled Tuesday because my 3 friends here were unable to make it because they were shivering in the dark in when the power was out in Texas, which is really sad. But they're here, they're present, and they seem to have warmed up a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I did.
All right, so now we're at a place where you guys have basically, you're in a new position somewhat. You've made the transition. You told us why you made those transition. I think we can actually dig in for like the next, I don't know, 30 minutes or 45 minutes and talk about process. I'm really curious. So we learned a little bit about you, which is fine, and I think we can come back to like what's your person. I think we should end with what you do personally, like what drives you personally to create, right? Even outside of work, right? But I think what I'd really like to know, and I think what I'd like to share with the audience is kind of, you two work in different lines down like the train track, right? So, you know, you have design systems, like, and it's actually kind of cool because we have design systems, concept, and then animation, and you're working very distinct areas down the line, right? So I'm kind of curious. This is not a question for you, Kev. Okay.
I'm gonna answer it.
Yeah, you chime in when you need to. But what I'm really curious about is, I guess I'll just straight up say, I'll start with Max.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing concept art, right? It's obviously you're working off of like a mood board, like something is presented to you in the sense of like, hey, we want to create this. Like here, I'm curious, like what is it they hand you, right? And then more pointedly, maybe it's not right now in the question, like there's a lot to talk about within that space, right? But at some point I'd like to understand how Max is able to inform that, right?
Mm-hmm. No,
I'm gonna time you. You got 30 seconds. I'm just kidding.
Let's do it. I'd say one of the key things is like development of any kind is a web of communication. There, it's not just like one person gets handed one thing and it goes down the line. It's not an assembly line. Like there's a lot of back and forth between a few different parties for anything. For concept art, you know, we deal with art direction, we deal with narrative, we deal with design, we deal with animation as well. All this kind of stuff comes. Yeah, we deal with level design, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, like we're kind of the core visual pre-production. And so let's say I get handed something like, hey, we have a story NPC for this game. We want to establish these like few key points, like this is the visual style, this is like how we want them to be kind of represented, just mood or kind of their role in the game. So there's usually an initial conversation that we have with you know, directors. It's pretty close knit, and maybe some of the writers. And down the line, if we have any specific gameplay requests, design, animation, any of the technical departments will kind of come in. And then if we need to, like once things have kind of like lined up and we're finishing up, we'll work with departments like audio or special effects, visual effects, to do any kind of supplementary work. It's like, oh, cool. Does this character have, let's say if it's a playable character, do they have special skills or abilities that kind of do different things? Like we need to have visualizations for, it's like, cool, like if they punch or if they shoot or if they do these kind of, if they fly, what does that look like? So it's definitely a process, kind of laying down certain points of the pipeline. But ultimately, I mean, if you're asking kind of like what I bring to the table there, I mean, having personal kind of, I would say indications as far as like what you're into or kind of things that you want to kind of develop in anything that you make. It's a weird line professionally. I think people have their interests, and then you have to kind of figure out like what's okay to like inject as part of yourself, because it is a professional environment. You can't just go off and do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Obviously your influences and your kind of your choices there will kind of influence your strengths. Like for me, I am a robots and monsters kind of guy. That's always kind of been my forte. So a lot of my work tends to fall in that line. And I feel like any work that that you enjoy, you're likely to get a better output for it. So even in that like development sphere, like if you're a manager going, it's like, hey, we have this character, we're going to get this guy on it because we know that they're really passionate about this. Or yeah, it's like, hey, we have design over here, like we're going to get this person to do this because I know that they're really going to put their heart into it. Yeah, just I mean, there's a lot of conversation that goes on. It's a little bit complex, but you know, there's a lot of stakeholders sometimes, and it's cool seeing everybody bring a little bit of themselves into that process. And I think that's the biggest thing to take away is anything that gets made. It's usually not just one person kind of putting their heart into it, especially as the projects get bigger. I mean, small projects, obviously, it's like you got like a 3-person team, like people are doing everything themselves. But you get a $100 million AAA game, like there's things change hands so often. It's really just the kind of culmination of the team as a whole.
Very diplomatic. I'm just kidding.
I too concur.
I think
I agree.
I think a tough question to ask here is, given what we do at the Equitable Gamer, I think my curiosity is like when did the demographics get set? We're talking about we're talking about gender, race, ethnicity, background, religion, culture, all of that stuff. When does that kind of get set, and does that inform you as well?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think especially the games that I've worked on. I mean, we were on Borderlands 3, which came out a year and a half ago. Now,
Whirlwind.
Where's the time go?
What is even time?
Yeah, like working on characters for that, we're always very aware of like, hey, like where are the gaps in kind of our like core cast? What can we bring in? Like, what do we have room for here? And I've never been in an environment where people have kind of like shunned certain ideas as far as possibilities for kind of race or background, or kind of just like I would say cultural influence as far as that goes. I have not ever been in a situation where it's like, oh, we can't do this because this. Sorry, I'm like trying to word this correctly.
Hey, we're always checking ourselves too. I mean, I get it. Like, don't feel bad if you say something. We'll unpack it in the moment, as opposed to just letting it linger into the distance, right? This is not an elephant in the room kind of situation.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I just like, I feel like every environment that I've been in personally has always been like very cool with like, hey, like what about this? Like, what if this character, is more like a Korean descent, or is more like Mediterranean or Greek, or like, just kind of bringing in some, like certain stuff. Like we definitely try and push that envelope into certain things. I think the possibility of it is always the coolest part. It's just like, what about this?
Cool. So if you're a robots guy, what gets you to do the other stuff?
I mean, like,
demand.
No, I mean, like that's like my personal. That's the stuff that kind of got me into it.
Okay.
That's like, that's like the stuff that I consume.
So this is actually one of my favorite pieces that you've ever done.
Let's see. I'm waiting for this to catch up.
Oh yeah, you're behind.
Oh, thanks, man.
No, this is one of my favorite. I've like you did this years ago. The first time I saw this, I was like, oh my lord, like bow down to this man. Like the detail in here, it's a galaxy. I know you can't really see it on my screen. It's just like,
shoot that link out.
Yeah. Get that link out there. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, talk about like bringing kind of different cultures or different kind of spheres together. Like I feel like a lot of the work that I've done professionally too is kind of this like juxtaposition where you kind of just like clashing elements that don't usually fit together. I mean, like we're talking specifically like for that prompt, it was like cool, like make a. I don't even remember what the prompt was for that.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that being a
for
prompt.
that context. Or for that context. Yeah. But it was like cool. I want to do.
Just so people know, that is John. That's a piece that Max did for John. Yeah, I know. Which I didn't. But when I saw it, I was just like, "Is that John?" And then I was on John's Facebook, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is John!" Yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah, the network is small.
Very small. It is currently on my phone as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's double back to some of the more personal work. But I wanted to have John be able to fill in some, so people know that are watching. So obviously, like when we talk about this again, like if KP is at the design systems level and like the early phases of what is the game going to look like, how's it going to function, like who's going to be in it, things like that, right? And then we start getting people to say, okay, we have this idea in our head, someone put it on paper, Max starts locking that down, like this is what this could look like, yada yada yada. So we're skipping a step because we don't have a 3D artist here, right? So typically it would go from concept to 3D art, right? And those art assets get kicked down to John. So then John takes those 3D assets that have been built from concept art, which have been built from systems design, and he has to utilize all of that information to create animation that fits with the theme.
More or less, like Max said earlier, right? There's so much back and forth, right? I wish it was as easy as like, you make one thing, pass it down, and you just keep it going. But it's not gonna be like that at all.
Well, let me just clarify one thing.
Yeah.
I promote and
2019.
Yeah, I know.
You're gonna do it like this too?
Yes, I am. I know it's old stuff. I promote and I establish the fact that we don't work in waterfall anymore. We work in agile, so it's never waterfall anyway. If those of you watching don't understand what I'm talking about, look up agile methodology. You can look up Scrum. That's what I focus on. So it's a way of producing work in a more efficient, collaborative, and communicative way. And you do it iteratively. Anyway, whole other conversation. I just kind of wanted to kick that because what Max and John are about, what John's about to talk about, and what Max has been talking about is this constant iterative cycle of communicating across the organization instead of just saying, okay, all the assets are done, animate it. Okay, all the systems are built, concept art it, right? So go ahead, John.
Yeah, my experience is a little interesting in the sense that like, for the majority of my career, it's was on Smite. Huge cast of characters from a lot of different backgrounds, right? You're talking different pantheons, people's religions in cases, right? So it's been interesting where when you have, well, it's like a little easy, a little difficult as well. Like it's easy because the content is already there, right? It's lore. It's actual stuff that exists in the world already.
You just got to do your research.
For us, it's the research, doing right by it, and also getting it represented in a way that is just respectable, but also you gotta make it cool, right? We are still trying to make a video game and stuff. So for me, it's a lot about just getting input from the team that I was with. We had a team. We were fortunate enough to have a large pool of people, like 15 different animators from various backgrounds, ethnicities, age groups, and all that stuff. And every time when the character rolls by, I will always be like, cool, let me talk to my team first. Right, I don't agree to anything right off the bat. I kind of take notes and be like, okay, this is kind of what design's feeling. This is what concept is feeling. This is what our art director is thinking. I package that up and kind of bring it back to the team and be like, okay, how does this sound on paper, you all, right? And then they can start like interjecting what they like to see, what they wouldn't like to see. for me personally, it's like sometimes when like an Asian pantheon comes on, I'm a little bit more laser focused on that because I just,
I just because you're Asian,
relate to
it.
Like, and sometimes, you get a character and I'm like, I don't know, like I honestly feel like he's a little whitewashed. The first time I ever said that, I was so scared, right? I'm just in this room with tons of people who are like way more senior than me, and they, for some reason, they haven't trusted me to stand on this platform and say stuff. But it just didn't felt right. So I've been thankful for just being in a position where I can just be like, hey, this is kind of wrong. I don't like how this is going. What do y'all think? And oftentimes, more like if you present it in such a way where you like reframe it, and they're just like, I think you have a point. That's where the back and forth happens, right? And then sometimes we even would get a character all the way through into our department, and then a new discovery happens, right? And we're like, hey, we gotta roll it back. It's minor, but like more often than that, I think if you just establish that that's the cadence, like other teams are more willing to work with you and stuff like that.
Okay.
I like it.
So overall, your experience has been. I mean, I think you've been in a lucky position where you've felt safe, if I'm understanding correctly. You felt safe in kind of bringing yourself to the conversation, and okay. Well, I mean, that's amazing.
That's not to say like sometimes you just get stonewalled, but that's. It's weird because there is a fine line of like, how much, like Max said, how much of yourself do you like try to invest and push, and then sometimes it's like, how pragmatic can you be to get the content done, right? It's still business. We're in this as a job.
Yeah.
And it's a balance to kind of separate, how much hurt feelings weighs towards, just being amicable and like trying to find middle ground, when
for
there are disagreements.
I mean, I think that's a really big question and a difficult one, obviously, to answer. I think my curiosity there is why should it ever feel that way, right? But obviously, like, especially when it comes to like these bigger organizations like Gearbox or Hi-Rez or Blizzard or all these other things, when there's a lot of money riding on those situations, your voice becomes smaller. It's just kind of naturally. So like, and then I mean, if we really want to look at statistics, obviously the statistics of it all is like there's generally not a lot of minorities in the room, especially not Black people in the room. So it's, you start having those wonders of, hey, would they have even considered the conversation differently if there was somebody like that in the room? Like I said, I think it's impactful that you feel heard in a lot of cases, and that was an important part, especially so far down the line, right? Because I mean, that's a reality, right? I understand this is not waterfall. I understand we're trying to do things iteratively in the sense of get it pushed down to animation as quickly as possible so they can see it, mess around with it, and give us input on it, right? So that we can make the changes we need to. But considering you're so close to, a deliverable side of it, and I recognize you're still pretty far away because the whole, coding and all that kind of stuff, but knowing that you felt pretty heard even that far down the line, that's a positive thing, at least that would come out of that. I just think from what I've seen coming out of these companies is still, I still have pause because I'm like, yeah, you guys are still fucking up on certain things, right?
I mean, just thinking about, the thing that I think is really cool is that, first of all, John was in the room to even speak up on something like that. Had he not said anything, that conversation might not have gotten started and the character would have got shipped. Who knows if it would have done well or not, but if he was picking up on it, guaranteed
Someone's gonna pick up on it.
We're gonna pick up on it, and so that's really the main thing, is like who's in the room, and how much weight does their voice carry.
Yeah, and it's difficult. I recognize, like, at the end of the day, when it comes to games, one of the reasons why there's bugs and like game breaking things happen is because you're going from hundreds of people playing the game to like millions or thousands, right? Someone's gonna break it, right? It's impossible that someone's not going to pick up on something that 100 people weren't able to pick up on. I mean that's an interesting
also time and money, because we're on deadlines and stuff like that, and so more often than not, like when there are bugs that are found like in a shipped game, QA probably found it already. But there comes a time in the project where you have to triage, and you kind of have to decide, okay, these are the major show-stopping bugs. This is like what we need to fix, because like if we don't fix this, then you won't actually be able to finish the game or something like that, as opposed to something that might be like an edge case or something like that. But like even that stuff, it's a judgment call on whoever is running the project, right? Like you have your executive producer or whoever's managing that.
This is like slightly off topic in regards to Max and John, but I think your input is going to be really valuable here. In light of what you're saying, KP, my question here is, do we feel like the game industry has shifted so much because of the online platformness of it that they aren't shipping games that are complete enough? In the sense of like, okay, I hear what you're saying, KP, right? I hear what you're saying, Kev. You're saying there's a time, there's a point in game development where we just were like, okay, we're hitting the deadline. We gotta ship this, right? This has to go out, right? In the past, it just didn't work very often. Like it'd have to be super minor bugs. Like if you shipped a cartridge on SNES and it had a bug on it, that bug just exists, and we play it with the bug, right?
Yep.
But there's, you wouldn't have that happen where it was like a game breaking bug, right? Whereas nowadays it's like, okay, it works, it'll function, but sometimes this happens, so we're gonna ship it, and we're gonna work on fixing that after the fact. And I'm really curious if is that just par for the course at this point?
I think it's a number of things. That's oh man, I feel like there's so much that contributes to that.
This is another stream. I know this is another stream, but I just kind of wanted to give light because you were talking about it. That's it. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna be super long, but it's scope, it's the technology, because back in the day, when we were playing these games, not making them, it wasn't to the scale that it is right now. And so it's just like, those major game breaking bugs don't really exist in that form, because it's like, okay, you get one chance, you put this in a cartridge, or you print it off or whatever, and that's it, like on to the next thing. But the industry has shifted a lot, especially with like monetization models, stuff like that. So you have free to play, where it's like, okay, we give you the game for free, you get what you get, and we'll update it. And so that's why you see all of these like early access games and stuff, because it kind of removes the risk of getting that sort of backlash,
that investment,
something horribly like buggy, and it's just that's another resource that studio is kind of tapping into. Like it's live QA pretty much. Like it's like, the game's not finished,
right? Well, Max and John, like, do you guys feel like it's too much? Like having to navigate, like Kevin made a great point. He's like, the games back in the day weren't as lofty.
Yeah.
Right.
Games are just getting more complicated and more expensive to make. That's the fact right there.
Yeah.
So the question that I'm asking is it too much? Like, obviously you have new tools, new technologies constantly coming out to be able to do what you're doing, right? Are you able to keep up? Is this going to break?
It's funny. I mean, like, KP, like Kevin touched on it, it's like scope and management. Like you really got to find out what the most important things are. If you have scheduled out enough, and this is just project planning at this point, but like it's like, yeah, man, like if you offer
John's
enough
favorite
time,
subject.
I know, yeah, so interesting. If you guys have enough time to like at the end of a thing, depending on what you're making, if it's a 6-month game, if it's a 5-year game, like whatever you have, like allowing yourself enough time to accurately anticipate the issues that are going to come through and bug fix and just assure that all of that stuff gets hammered out. I mean, that's up to you as a developer or as a studio or as a publisher. I would say that, I mean, yeah, with the ever-growing complexities that games have to go through now, not only are the projects in the tech, like, is the technology more complicated, but just the anticipation and the expectation, I'd say, of what we're expected to deliver as well has also grown in scope. I would say that even I don't want to say like gamer culture has anticipated like the expectation of like everything being like perfect and fulfilling. Like,
no, I have a lot of judgments about the game community. I do. Like I think we're like disillusioned and just crazy people.
Yeah, it's a tall order, and I understand why people get frustrated when things like that seem to break. But you know, like every game is different, every team is different. You have a varying level of experiences and kind of just skills and I can't say experience again, but I could. It would be correct. But yeah, you know, like the formula is different all the time. It would be different if every game used the same tools and tech and built off of itself. But we don't operate like that. And so, yeah, I mean, like sometimes stuff breaks. And luckily nowadays, with the growing complexity of things, we have the ability to hotfix and to patch things and to put out updates. I see that in a world of ever tightening schedules and budgets, that is honestly a saving grace for developers, because we're able to, hey, we don't have the resources to take care of this right now. We're gonna get the essential stuff done, like Kevin was saying, and then like later we're gonna come in and fix really important stuff. It wasn't what we were looking to do, but this is what we have to adapt to. So it just that adaptability is important.
So, John, did you have a point on this?
No, not too much. Just kind of what they're saying. But I mean, at least for indie studios, right? I mean, like if they don't have deep pockets, that's where the project management will come in. They're like, okay, this is the scope of our game. This is what we know what we can achieve. Yeah. And I would say it's also a blessing in disguise, right? When you're not like loaded, you kind of have to find the fun within like the smaller parameters, and that's absolutely still very doable. Okay. You know, with the plethora of indie games that have been coming out, like it's still very much doable. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for like acquiescing to this crazy conversation that I've kind of put us in the position of having. So really quickly, just kind of piggybacking off that before we get to, hey, personal work. So we were talking about tech. We're talking about like, you know, changing industry standards and all that kind of stuff. I'm curious, Max first, because I'm sure it's going to happen with John as well, because I mean, we just saw this whole epic metahuman thing. So, yeah, Max, like what's going to happen to concept art when we don't have to draw it anymore?
So I mean, you're almost seeing it already. It's funny, man.
Previs.
A lot of our, I mean, yeah, the core of what we do, it's like what ideas are going to win, what ideas give us the best like visualization of what we want to make. Talking about like advancing tools and technology and stuff, there are and this kind of even goes back to earlier question of like not being the smartest person in the room. I feel so fortunate to be on a team where I get to come in every day, and the guys who are working on these projects with me kind of blow my mind on the stuff that they're doing. Like I've got guys on my team who are adapting new workflows for 3D. I've got a guy who works in VR, who does his pre-visualization, takes it in, and then finishes everything digitally as well, doing paints and mock-ups. But the flexibility.
Are you the old man in the room?
I'm trying not to be. I'm really trying not to be. Actually, one of the cool things we started one day a month. We've kind of taken off for the team, and everybody gets to kind of pitch and at work, like it's like an in-school assignment kind of thing, where it's just like, hey, I'm gonna work on this today. I'm gonna watch this tutorial, and just like planned education, like planned growth kind of stuff, because stuff comes out quickly. The industry changes fast. Like we've got guys on the team who are downloading Google Map height map data and importing it into 3D software to get a base for a landscape, which then they will like paint over. So they're not sketching on paper anymore. They're sketching with geographic data. They're using
right.
shaders and all these things to morph, and like they're projecting like geological stuff on top, and they're bringing in like temp assets and stuff that's like
right.
in shared marketplaces, and just whatever they can do to just get the rough stuff out of the way and focus on what's important.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the coolest stuff. It's not about just like polishing pixels or trying to like be the best painter, or it's just like, dude, use the tools at your disposal and make cool stuff in interesting ways.
How about you, John?
Yeah, you mentioned the meta-human stuff. I think it's different for me, and then some animators who are in the same boat as I am, where we love the hand key stuff, and that's kind of what we're chasing.
Yeah.
I mean, with the rise of the meta-human stuff, it's great.
Really quick. What does hand key mean?
So the hand key animation is where we will actually go in and actually pose out a character.
So it's not the capture rig. Is what you're
so
saying.
The mocap stuff is what you're referring to, and so mocap data and all that stuff. That technology is like growing like exponentially, super quick. But I think where, at least for us, some of the safety for animators, some animators be like, oh no, I don't think any animator is going to lose their job with this kind of technology, because we're actors.
There's physical limitations.
Right? Yeah, I mean, like, you can have all these really like fleshed out meta-human looking characters and stuff like that, but like how they act, like the essence of who they are, that still has to be determined by a human element. And that's us, the animators, right? So where the puppeteers, where the directors there, like, and where the actors in most of the time, right? Where you get a character, and regardless of what your tools are, at least for us, we're still deciding what to do, how they do it, and most importantly, why they're doing it. So I don't think that the rise of the machines will like ruin any animator's job. It's just how you adapt to it and how you want to implement.
Okay. So are there things about that you're trying to learn? Like new things that you're trying to pick up on?
No, I haven't dug into the meta-human stuff. Current project we're on is,
well, I'm not saying specifically to that. I just mean like in general, are you watching tech to make sure that you're kind of...
Oh yeah, definitely. The Twitterverse, right? Anytime when there's like, oh, check out this new, like, oh, I have this character that can like morph into like, I don't know, like it's just from like this female anime looking chick and into like a quadruped like bicycle rig. I'm like, how did you do that? But like it's insane. Like,
I got it. Okay, cool.
It's very fun. Like, but fortunately, the studio I'm at right now, we are so like ingrained and just in love with like the hand aspect, the hand keyed aspect of it. Like, so
there's art to it. There's definitely art to it. I understand that. Absolutely. So, to kind of finish us out, I'm going to ask a tough question, and you can feed your personal work into that. I need to let my dog out. She's freaking out. Okay. I don't know. I guess she needs to use the bathroom. What I'm going to ask you guys is, what are you doing to help amplify marginalized voices? Not an easy question. My expectation isn't like, I'm solving racism by doing that. No. And if you say that, I'm going to call bullshit. So
I'm out here fighting. You don't know that.
Yeah. So as you talk about your personal work, as you talk about like, you know, what you're doing on a day to day, I'm just curious about how you kind of enter that space. Because my expectation isn't that we're all working as anti-racists, because we're generally not. It's very hard work. It requires a lot of sacrifice. I'm not like, my expectation isn't that you're doing that. My hope is we all move towards it, right? But really the conversation is, you know, how are you amplifying that, and what are you doing in your personal work, and how are you making decisions on what you're creating? Go. Or let that sit with you for a second.
Who wants to go first? I'll go first.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, most of the stuff that I try to do is through Twitter, just because I feel like the largest group of voices, and you know, I'm trying to get better at using Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that, but Twitter has been most of the one I use. But usually I make sure I retweet and try and comment or like on just all marginalized groups posts whenever I come across them. That's the main thing. I have a decent amount of followers, not a whole lot, but I figure, you know, every little one counts. So that's what I've mostly been doing. And aside from that, I don't know if it's really amplifying voices, but just trying to increase knowledge about the industry and these like tech jobs and everything. I try and go and talk to kids whenever I go back to Savannah, Georgia, which is my hometown, and that's been really cool. But yeah, that's about it. I know I could do more. It's really, like you said, it's hard work. So, and I'm trying to get more active. So, and through doing this, honestly, I hope this is useful for people. And yeah, I just hope that that even if there's one person that gains anything from this, you know, I feel like that's excellent. So
I think KP or kept presenting yourself this way and opening yourself up to the opportunity to be communicating or building that network, I think is that step past, hey, I'm just presenting you with knowledge, right? It, like, yes, you can go into these schools and you can say, hey, this is how I did this. There's opportunities out there. The step past that is, here is an opportunity, right? So like, hey, we have internships at Airship Syndicate. Going to Airship Syndicate leadership and saying, I want you to hold 2 internships for me to go and get people from my hometown, you know, that are interested, and bringing them here, right? Or I want you to hold 2 spots for HBCU students, or something, like making demands around how do I get people that are not in here, right? I think that's that sacrifice step, because you're putting yourself in a weird position, right? Not necessarily, because you might have a great relationship. That's, I mean, ideally, this isn't even a conversation that you have to have, right? But anyway, so thoughts from Max and John, if you have.
Go next.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, open DMs, man. Like he said, like it's definitely can be doing more. And like you said, it's hard. But best I can do right now is, yeah, my Insta, my Twitter, always open DMs. Like, and going to when I was still back in Georgia, going back to AI, actually going to SCAD as well, even though I never went to SCAD. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to go there. I've made a lot of connections with just like up and coming like artists, animators, and stuff like that. And to this day, they still hit me through my DMs, and they're all like, "Hey, I'm working at Sony now. I'm working at Bungie and stuff like that." And it's crazy how like they refer back to like one random moment that I can never remember. And they're like, "Oh yeah, you looked at my reel one time, and like what you said helped." And I'm like, I guess I don't know. I mean, I don't think I know what the fuck I'm talking about. But oops, sorry.
It's okay. I forgive you.
And so yeah, man. Like, and then retweeting sharing everything, reblogging everything that I can. Obviously things that like I find interesting, but because it's a fine line. I'm gonna be the first to say that I'm not gonna do it just be performative, but like if I'm feeling it, the art, and I'm like I'm gonna share it. So just using whatever platform I have, and then just making sure that gets shared in internal like work Slack and stuff. Hey, someone's doing this really cool art, and sure enough, the art director is like, oh, I have my eye on that person. Like, I know that person's work from ArtStation or Polycount, etc. And just anywhere you can like just kind of help like radio blip people. That's what I'm trying. But
yeah, I think as you as first generation immigrant, as you as a Southeast Asian, right? Southeast Asian.
Yep.
You as a Southeast Asian, when you start thinking about decisions that are being made around things that you're working on and things like that, and you recognizing, hey man, it would be great if we had some more of these voices like in the room, right? I think it comes back to making conscious notes of that and saying, how do I get more of those voices in this room? Because my expectation with this channel is, I am a Black person, KP is a Black person, so we have a tendency to speak about Black issues, right? But my anticipation isn't always that. Like, I expect to have LGBTQ community on here talking about the things that they're going through and the things that they're dealing with, and getting them to talk about what they need. So in the same regard to you, John, is like, okay, you're sitting in the room, you recognize there's a dearth of this voice or this experience. What do you do? I'm not saying you have to answer. I'm just telling you. I'm saying, hey, it's not just about like, oh, okay, I can communicate with these people, I can help these people out and stuff like that. But what can you start leveraging? That's what you want to start thinking about. What can you start leveraging to say, hey, we need more of this, and here's a way we can do it. That's the work, right? That's the like I just did my work. I want to do something fun, but I should probably think about this thing that I really want to happen. What do I need to do to make that happen, right? Again, this shouldn't be complicated or hard. It really should just be a conversation you're able to have with your superiors or your hiring managers or anything like that. Or, hey, you guys have a scholarship? Great. I want you to bookmark some of that money specifically for this, because I have some people that are interested and I think we need these voices involved, right? Like being strategic about how decisions are being made within the organization that you're in. Obviously, that's leveraging your relationships. That's a lot of that kind of stuff. And that's something you build. But I wanted to give Max some time to talk too. So
oh, cool. Appreciate it.
You get it last because you're white.
Well, I mean, even kind of talking on that, playing. It's like there's a lot of white leadership in games. Like you walk into a room of directors, or you walk into like kind of some of these like manager meetings, and it's like you see a lot of white faces, and you like I think it's the responsibility at this point to just remember like those issues, and to make sure that it's like, hey man, like we need to focus on this stuff, or we need to make room, or like giving time for other people who aren't kind of in like either in those meetings, or I don't want to say in the spotlight, but like if certain issues aren't being brought up in those conversations, like identifying the stuff that isn't happening, and kind of bringing that stuff forward as well.
I applaud you for doing that work, because that's work. No, seriously, seriously, like legit. I applaud you for doing that work, because even having that mindset of being in that room and saying, wow, there's a lot of white people in this room. Are we getting the perspectives that we should be getting? Right. Hey, like we're developing this. Like, has anybody thought about the fact that like there's no diversity going on? I'm not saying this is what happens, but I'm saying like being able to be present enough to say, hey, we're missing something here. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. So I just kind of wanted to, give you your flowers.
I mean, I'm not trying to pat backs or anything, but it's just like just like having that awareness. I mean, like, yeah, like when we cast voice actors, it's like, oh, cool, like making sure that like LGBTQ communities are present for certain things, like having that stuff available.
Marcus Prime, he's on Instagram. He's a Black artist. He does a Boo and Bay. They're like two caricatures that he makes. They're in a relation. What's it called? A situation shit. I'll link it to you. It's hilarious. Like, they're really, really good. He just randomly created them and then they blew up. But anyway, the point I was making is when he does like gay content, like LGBTQIA content, he has consultants. He talks to people and gains consultation about what's important to that community. Right. And I think that's what you're basically talking about. I'm not even talking about like hiring people in. I'm saying at least have the presence of mind to say, hey, we're going to create an LGBTQ, we're going to create a gay character, but there's not a single person in this room that's gay. So we're just going to do it off of what we think. Right. It's like, that's a bad idea.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's not even that it's not right. It's just a poor decision.
That's
So,
setting up for failure, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
You're asking for a Kotaku article.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to sign on what you said. I think what you said was important. I think it was very valuable in making that recognition, but I don't want to continue down that route. I just kind of wanted to wanted you and John to talk to us about what you're doing personally, quickly.
Sorry about that.
No. Sorry about what?
No,
You're good.
Unfortunately, personally, I don't do a lot of like dedicated personal art these days. I think just the demands of work sometimes you're just like, you know what, I want to kind of disconnect and pursue other interests, or spend some family time. Just kind of disconnecting from that and saving all those reserves for the work effort. I mean, some things that I've been fortunate enough to be included in. I was a part of an art book series called Hardcover, which kind of like,
I did see that.
Yeah, like
I'm not sure if I can show it. I was like, man, I'd love to be able to show it. I'm not going to. I've seen it. I looked at it. I did look at it. I was like, there it is, right there. It's right here.
Basically, I mean, like stuff like that. It's like raising awareness on like visual censorship for art, and it was really cool. It was a great opportunity for me. It was just like, oh yeah, let's get a bunch of sexy art from all these internet like art rock stars. It's cool to have myself in that collection. Definitely feel very, very grateful for that. But yeah, I mean, kind of echoing what KP and John were saying, like just even just casual mentorship, just kind of being there, answering questions, like letting people know that the barrier for communication is small. Like we've all been in that situation where we're just like, I don't know if this is going to work out. Or like, hey, I'm just getting my foot in, like I don't know where to turn to, like who do I ask about this stuff? It's like I have a very specific example. Actually, when I was going in for my first interview, I messaged somebody who was on the Polycount message boards. He had been on there for a long time. He'd already been working in games. I respected him a lot. My coworker Jesse Sosa, he kind of gave me some information, and I don't like looking back on it, I didn't frame my questions very well. I wasn't very considerate. And I feel bad about the way that I approached the situation. And now, like these days, he is our art outsourcing manager. And so, like looking back a decade, like having rough questions for somebody that I admired, and now working with them professionally in the same proximity, it gives you a lot to think about and a lot to kind of understand. It's like, look, like the way you kind of present yourself early on has long-lasting effects. And so. And I'm not trying to like scare gloom and doom, but it's just like
pay attention.
Just asking questions and like kind of being open very early on is really important, because people will remember stuff, whether it's good or bad. And if you're just kind of kicking ass from day one, and really kind of shining light, or just even being open and like kind of accepting of just certain answers, like especially critique. Like if you're asking for feedback on work and you don't want honest answers, if you just want a feel good, you're in for a rough road. Like if you're starting out, and like you need to understand that like this isn't just your class that you're at. It's just like, oh, I'm the best in my class. It's like, cool. Well, like you get out there and the class is so much more. It's a freaking football stadium. Like you got to be as good as everybody else in that stadium.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you, Max. I wanted to give John a little bit of space. Just so everybody knows, I know we're over time, but I want to give John some space to talk about some of the work that he's doing personally, some of the things that he's looking forward to. Take it away.
Yeah. Personally, same about as Max. Like, ever since work from home kind of started, I definitely, there is a value in delineating work and then your time, right? It's just when you're at home and you're just working, and like sometimes you sit there after hours and you're still working, and there's no separation. I've tried to be better about that. Outside of that, side projects, it's happening, and it's can't say anything about it yet, but there's some exciting stuff there. Being active in some of my friends like art discords and stuff like that, where friends who have models, and I'm like, cool, I want to pick up more rigging. I'll tap them, they would hand me off some of their stuff, and I can just rig it up, and I can animate it myself. That's where most of my time has been, honestly. And then just outside of work, finding other interests. I think that's one of my things that a lot of animators will agree, because when you're animating, you have to pull from a lot of different actions and movements, and yeah, you have to be interested, or at least curious about anything and everything, right? There's not a single activity that I don't shy away from. Well, I mean, it's Corona, so I can't really go out and do anything anymore. So, but yeah, I would love to say that I'm still out there being the social butterfly, but lately it's been very counter to my personality type. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm just hanging in there, Coop.
I hear you. I hear you, buddy. I hear you, buddy. The conversation makes me want to I need to get some sound designers on here. That'd be fun to kind of understand how they're doing their functional work and stuff like that. Yeah, get some Foleys up in here. I actually was going to do a whole damn video about how underrated and important sound design is in the things that we watch, the games that we play, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I finally had an opportunity to hear, I'm not sidelining what you said, I finally had an opportunity to hear some gameplay from Outriders, and I was like, whoa, this sounds intense. The gameplay sound, I was like, man, I couldn't believe I hadn't actually heard it. And then I was like, man, this is amazing. Anyway, that was exciting. But yeah, no, I hear you, talking about the personal work and the separation, and you also got me thinking I need to consign John to do some stuff for Equitable Gamer. I already got Max doing some work for me, and I'm like, I need to talk to John. Yeah, make something happen. Okay. Awesome conversation, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on the Equitable Gamer tonight. Hopefully y'all watching learned something. I know it was a long conversation. There was a lot there. I am struggling to consistently cut these things down. It's just a lot. So you might just have to watch the whole thing. No, I'm just kidding. Let me figure it out. I'll figure something out. There's sections. I just had to chop it into the sections and stuff like that. But yeah, Max, John, thank you so much. I'm definitely going to ask you guys on again at certain times. I mean, you're always welcome. I mean, this is it's definitely an open for, if you ever feel like having a conversation about the topic that we're on, by all means, pop on. Because I don't know what's going on in your world. I don't know what you guys are really super interested in. So if you see a topic and you feel like you have something to add to it, I'd love to have you on, always. Secondly, if you know anybody else that's interested in having some conversations like these, by all means, shoot them our way. We're always interested in bringing people on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Again, Equitable Gamer is about having tough conversations, but focused on the game industry. We're really curious about how to help the industry grow in a positive way, so I think we're getting there. We're figuring something out. I'm starting to get communication. Well, yeah, I know. I mean, I already had somebody reach out to me, like I said, that was like, hey, this. So
yeah,
as long as the word keeps getting out there, someone will listen.
It's slow cooking.
Yeah, it's slow cooking. But yeah, that's it for us. And I never know how to end these things. Goodbye.
You cut it off.
Nah, we're out. No. So a couple things. I've been posting a bunch of shorts on YouTube about the things that are coming up in Outriders. I'll be actually creating some content leading up to that release. The 25th, that's next Thursday at 12 EST. The demo goes live on every platform pretty much except Epic Games and Stadia, I think. So Xbox One, Xbox XS, PC, Steam, and Nvidia. The Nvidia Now streaming thing. Yeah, they
Nvidia Stadia.
yeah, Nvidia Stadia. They recently said they were gonna go with that, but it's gonna be cross-platform. It's in beta, so you have to manually allow it. But yeah, man, it's free. I mean, if you're even remotely interested in a looter shooter, there's really no reason not to get it, play it, and see what it's like.
Is this a sponsored ad?
It's not. It's not a sponsored ad. I am
not sponsored.
I'm legitimately interested in this game.
Oh yeah, no, and that makes it even better.
The funny thing is, it's made by the people that made Gears of War, right? And Gears of War was the first one was like my favorite. It's like nostalgia wise, it was when I met KP. We were playing like competitively. We were destroying people at SCAD. It was fun. Like, and I liked the gameplay, right? I liked the visceral nature of it, and that's what I see. I just cannot wait to get my hands on this and actually play it. So, but it's the first few hours of the game. You can play all the classes. It's open till after the game's released. Like, they don't have an end date for the demo. So like, even after the game's released, you can still download it and try it out. So they believe in the game they're making. So I'm really excited to see what they did. Yeah, and that's where we're at. So next week, Tuesday, I have no plans at the moment for what that day's gonna look like. It's probably gonna be a prep day for Outriders. So we'll probably talk about what Outriders is, go over that, why I'm interested in playing. I'm gonna be doing a little bit of research on Cloud Island. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that some more, because I am looking for a casual game to play as well. What are you guys playing right now, just before we leave? Anything interesting you're playing?
Oh man.
I'm like not playing anything.
Yeah, just got back into Destiny 2.
Okay.
Nice. I'm playing Valorant.
Okay.
Lots of Valorant. Yeah.
Valorant. Okay.
I'm playing Valorant, Valheim, Grounded, and then there's one more space exploration one. Kind of like No Man's Sky, but yeah, I'm all about into like mining and just foraging and surviving games.
Nice.
Just out here trying to live.
Yeah. Last game I played was Cyberpunk.
Live,
And I haven't played it in a while because I've just been so busy. So, but that's awesome, guys. Thanks so much again for joining us tonight. I'm gonna say peace out to Max, John, and Kev. Have a great night.
Peace.
Peace.